Hi guys, it's Blair here. Oh gosh, quality. Somebody needs to get a new webcam. Yeah, I do. I really do. Is that better? Maybe it's the sunlight. Okay, let's just go with the flow with this video. I am doing a video because I really needed to talk about this. I could write about it, but I thought I might just sit down in front of the camera and talk about it. I started the book, and I'm probably about 40 pages into it, and I don't really feel like it's a loss. Basically, the book is Dark Prince by Christine Feehan. When I first started reading again more prominently, probably about when I was 16, 17, back when sort of vampires were again a big thing, coming into probably 2005, 2006. I'm not quite sure I think Twilight had already been written, but it wasn't popular back then. As popular. The first thing I grabbed when I was earning my own independent income were a bunch of these books. So every payday I'd go out and buy a new one. I read some of them. I've got probably at least 10 or 11 on my shelf of the series, and there's like 20 of them. Straight off, I love the vampire genre. I love romance. I'm very into the whole, biting, that kind of stuff. Like the lore of vampires and creatures and the fantasy and escapism. I'm really into all that sort of stuff. What I'm not into is abuse, either from female or male perspectives, or just unhealthy boundaries with characters. What else can I say about it? Unhealthy boundaries, claiming ownership, possession, obsession, kind of stuff like that, where it's on every page and you just can't get away from it. So it's really hard to describe how I feel right now, but I'm just going to try and go, and it's going to be very fluid. Well, not fluid. I started this book, and I was anticipating reading something that I really used to love, and I realised that my reading style has dramatically changed. Yes, it has dramatically changed since my Twilight days. But not only that, my perception of myself and the way I like to be treated as a woman and as an individual human being has definitely changed. I'm not going to lie to you guys at all. When I was 16 and 17, I was in some very dangerous relationships. I was in some very abusive relationships. I was in victim mentality. And, Fantasyland. I lived a lot in my Fantasyland, especially being a writer, but also escaping. I'd just come out of not so much a relationship per se, but I'd come out of a very dangerous situation. So, my vibrational energy was all over the place, and I was just not in a good place. And so, I turned to books because books were my world. Books were a way of escapism. Looking back on that, I can kind of see where my thought patterns behind relationships and my mentality behind that and my self-respect came from. Reading is such an integral part of finding your identity as well, especially if you are a reader. You may read a book and something can click and stay with you for the rest of your life. We sometimes often forget how much we actually do take in by reading and writing. Because, thinking about advertising, for instance, how much do we take in by advertising just by seeing a picture 3 times a day? By the time you've seen it 5 times a day, you're pretty much going to want it even if you don't need it or want it at all, because you've subjected yourself to taking that information. So I guess we all know what reading is like. We do absorb things, we forget some things, but I think that, when your mind is developing, or you're developing as a reader or as a person or trying to find yourself, it's really important to actually be very selective about the books that you read. So I started reading this, and it was not sitting right. The main character was domineering, obsessive, abusive. I really liked the concept of the fact that the character was psychic and that she appeared to be a really strong, independent woman. Something like that really appeals to me. I would like my romances, when I read romance books like this, I don't mind them being different people and ready to change and learn and grow. But I've read reviews where I just wanted to know whether they would change and grow through this book already, because I'm up to 50 pages and he is just horrible to her. Like, there's nothing sexy about it at all. There's nothing sexy at all. And there's nothing about her personality that I actually like, because she is a complete contradiction to the person that she's supposed to be. So, and the thing is, I think this book was written in 1999, and I can see back then that the whole consciousness of women was it was a different landscape even back then. I was 9 when that was written, 9 years old. So you can kind of gather that the landscape of women's rights and respect, and the same with men's rights and equal rights and respect, was a little bit like it was not as it is today. And I don't really know whether I can gauge whether it's better or not, because I was 9 at the time. But yeah, I just feel like as much as you probably don't see it, I feel like women are becoming much more stronger. They are saying no to this kind of thing. They don't feel like they're obligated to be in relationships. Or same with men. Men don't feel like they have to be in a relationship or get married or anything like that. And it's not even about that. It's just about having really healthy boundaries. And I don't really feel like we need to be putting this shit into books anymore. And I guess you can say, okay, Blair, don't read it. I won't be reading it. But I'm just saying that I don't necessarily think that... I don't think we need to do it. I mean, 50 Shades of Grey, for instance, bringing up that controversial book, is pretty much crap. It is... I mean, I've heard so many things about it too, and I've read a bit of it, and it is abusive. It is. That's, you know... If you're going to do a book, do it right. If you're going to do a topic, do it right. You know what I mean? And people love that book, and I'm not just, like, not disclosing that might be a really good... a good escapism or anything like that, because I definitely read some really disturbing books for escapism as well. But when it comes to that kind of whole dynamic where a man completely owns a woman or a woman completely owns a man, and they don't have any rights, they don't have any way to leave, they're not allowed to do that, to have their own free will, I don't feel like you're really going to be able to grow as a person unless you're able to do that. And yes, that is personal, but it's becoming more fashionable, I think, to put that kind of content in books. This is not the only book that I read recently where, you know, whether it's been a fantasy or an erotica or a romance, where that kind of behaviour is deemed sexy or you know, addictive reads. For me, it doesn't really read anything other than it just reads like trash to me. Not discounting the author's feelings or their writing style or the concept, but it just does to me. It really does, and it irks me too, because I want to see people having healthy relationships in their lives. I want to see people reading books that really, you know, help them to grow, and these do help us to grow. They help us to grow in a big way, because they distance ourselves from that mentality. I don't really strongly feel like we should either go either way. It's much like, for me, you know, if you're really against men or really for men, there's always a middle ground. Same with if you're really for women or you're really not for women, there's always has to be a middle healthy ground. So I kind of feel like that way if I'm reading as well. I just... It's sad, because from a perspective I can see what I went through, and I wonder how many people pick up books like that and see that as a way to relate to people. And it always does come back to ourselves. You know, you can't blame a book, you can't blame a person or an author for putting those ideas out there, because we as humans choose to link up or connect with ideas, claim them as our own, or resonate with them, because it's a personal experience. And that's something I would like to share with you guys, that it is a reading is a really personal experience. However, personally, at the moment, I'm going to cull my bookshelf. I really am, because, yeah, it's disgusting, and I don't like it. I don't like reading every 5 pages where I feel trapped as a reader. I feel trapped as a reader thinking about this person who's not even real. It's just a character, because people do go through that experience. you know, if there was a redeeming quality where they did change and they realised and they grew together in a healthy way and independence was made, definitely yes. I would appreciate the author for actually going there, but knowing that this story is continued like 20 times throughout an entire series, it doesn't do anything. It just baffles me, really, that that's what people deem as attractive, you know? I come from an experience and a background where, you know, I've had that experience with the abusive relationships. I've also had the experience of some really wonderful people who have healthy boundaries and who talk about things and who respect people. And I definitely, like, the books that I read that I really enjoy are where people do that, are where people grow together. They struggle together, but they grow and they become independent and interdependent as well, either as friends, lovers, whether it's parental or romantic or platonic, you know, it just doesn't matter. It's putting some germinating ideas into people's heads. But some people really love that. Some people like to be whisked away because their reality isn't like that. Their reality is completely different, and that's what reading brings to people as well. My reality is that, you know, I don't want that in my life. I don't want to be reading about that either. So I just sort of wonder what you guys think about this kind of thing, because I definitely will not be continuing with this series, or anything like it, really. And it's interesting because I bought the Black Dagger Brotherhood around the same time, but I feel like J.R. Ward definitely has this thing where, you know, the women are respected, they're respected for their individualism, they're respected for their bodies, there's love and romance and pain and all that sort of, you know, human essence, but they're not abused like that. I feel like, yeah, I have issues with this. Anyway, so I thought I'd just do a confessions vlog because I just had to say it. I just could not bite my tongue anymore, and I couldn't read it. I just could not read it. And if you're interested too, there are lots of reviews of this book online as well, where they kind of just share the same experience, because I don't know, I am just baffled that I read stuff like this before. That I enjoyed it, and that I thought that was the way that relationships were supposed to be like. So never discount the books are so important and what they hold, because, you know, you have a choice in how you relate to the world through reading and writing and being the person that you are too. So, you know, and I could say the same thing for Twilight, because when I watched Twilight, and I thought that was how romance was supposed to be. Not discounting the fact that I enjoyed the books, I enjoyed the movies, my experience with it was a positive experience, but looking back, definitely I see that there are some really heavy-handed ideals that I don't feel need to be there, but they are, because that they've taught us all something about that, and they continue to be a controversial issue. Same with 50 Shades of Grey. It's going to continue to be a controversial issue because it's going to need to push people's buttons so that they can form their own opinions and shape their own identity. So yeah, so thank you guys for watching. If you have, I don't know whether I was cohesive, but I've said what I need to say. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.